Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Steve Kerr. Steve, well, I'm going to describe him as a high-performing sales professional in the building and construction industry. Steve currently works as a builder account manager with Bunnings Trade up in Queensland. I know he's doing some really good stuff up there, winning some new business and getting into the builder market up there. He's worked for a number of different organizations over the years, all in the construction industry. I think he's closing in on 10 years now in the sales industry and the profession in general. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with Steve, finding out a bit more about what he's doing currently and also sort of how he's got to where he is today. So, as I mentioned, he works for Bunnings, iconic Australian and New Zealand brand name. I think they've been awarded Reader's Digest Most Iconic Brand for the third consecutive year, and they won the Most Trusted Retailer for 2023. Largest home retailer, of improvement and outdoor living products across Australia and New Zealand. So really great name, and Steve's an absolute top bloke. So I can't wait to have a chat to him and really get stuck into it. So Steve, with that introduction, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Jeez, Joe, thank you. Yeah, what an introduction. I guess it's not really until you have someone introduce you that you sort of realise all of the merits behind you. But mate, I'm good. Been a busy week, been a busy couple of months. Like I know that you're going through at the moment with the recruitment space. The inspiration of your podcast really called to me. So yeah, I thought, well, I'm not hiring, I can definitely talk to people about inspiring. So yeah, mate, very much looking forward. And we've been trying to tee this up for months as well, just with getting all the bits and pieces lined up. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Well, I'm pumped to have you on, mate. Thank you for taking the time. So let's start, as I often do in the present. I touched upon there, your current employer working for Bunnings and your role as an account manager and the trade side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for someone who wouldn't know too much about, even the building industry, Bunnings, talk to me about maybe your sort of day-to-day role with those guys and how's it all going? How are you finding that position?
Yeah, for sure. So as we all know, Bunnings is our local, the big green shed warehouse that we've got in most major places around Australia. So there's 513 locations around Australia, but that doesn't just include Bunnings warehouses. So we've also got trade centres that service our larger trades and builders. Bunnings in the group has also got the Toolkit Depot and Beaumont Tiles as well, that was recently acquired too. So very big business, and I'm one of 52,000 team members across Australia and New Zealand as well. So very big company to work for, and where I find myself is in the trade division. So for my job, I'm mainly focused on, looking at the trade side of Bunnings. So looking at builders that are building homes, not necessarily the mums and dads that are coming into our warehouses, but those larger trades. So at the moment, it's been all over the news for years with the COVID pandemic and international shipping, price rises. Unfortunately, some builders not being able to maintain business as well, which causes massive ripple effects. And this is all happening, within a few weeks or a few months as well. So navigating the industry at the moment, very tricky, but also there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of fun as well. There's still a lot of high hopes around the building industry here in Queensland, but also around Australia. Definitely challenging times ahead, but if you put your head to it, you can definitely work through any challenge.
Yeah. And your role is focused on the residential market. You say you're focused on winning new customers in that residential space?
Business. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So this is a change that we've done up here in Queensland. So with my history and how I've learned to sell through the years, I'm a big fan of cold calling, really understanding the value behind why somebody wants to buy something. I often describe my job as convincing people that their money is better with me than with them. And that's when you really break that down, I'm trying to sell someone something and I'm trying to get their money off them. So it's really big when you think about that. So it's my job to go out and find builders who maybe aren't using Bunnings to the fullest potential that they could. Sit down with them, or first get the meeting with them, sit down, understand what their barriers to entry are, what's the value that they can get out of it, what are their pain points, just the typical sort of sales route, and then set them up to be able to start buying with Bunnings. So that might be for a builder to start purchasing the timber for the frame and trusses of a house or something before they start to build. When that happens, it's my job to then hand them over to a different account manager to handle that transactional interaction. So for me, it's really finding those opportunities, bringing them to life, and then nurturing them through the process.
I didn't necessarily think we'll get tactical straight away, but I love it. I was going to go into, so your role is to sort of get in front of the builder almost at first, and then you talk about how you would sort of go about the process from there. Just taking a step back though, you mentioned you love cold calling. What is your approach? Say, I don't know, I'm a potential prospect. What is your approach about, say, getting that meeting? How do you typically aim to do that?
I mean, there's a few different ways. I wouldn't ever say, in the building industry at least, that it's ever cold calling, purely because there's so much information out there. If you were, Joe's Builder or something like that, I could go on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and find out what style of house that you're building. If you're steel frame, timber frame, what's our competitive advantage compared to some of our other competitors and things like that. And then, finding a phone number, driving past a job site or something like that, being authentic with them as well and being upfront. So, hey, my name is Steve from Bunnings Trade. I've got this really, really good idea. Let's talk about 1, 2, 3. And it's my aim to increase the speed of your build, which is going to get your builds done faster. You're going to save time on labor and produce a wonderful house.
But it sounds like you're not just calling up anyone. You are doing a bit of research before the call, as in, you might have gone on my Instagram and seen what I'm doing, or my LinkedIn page. You're finding like a hook.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say there's so much industry information out there. Being in the organisation that I'm at, we've got access to a number of different, like revenue streams of information, national reports and builder data. The QBCC up here, so the Building Commission that we've got up here in Queensland, actually publishes a lot of data around builders as well on how many like jobs that they're doing or how much they're insured for and things like that. So we're able to really target builders up here compared to maybe Sydney or Melbourne, where that information isn't as readily available. Okay. So it's really about getting that information and then tailoring your cold call or your pitch to that builder.
Nice. And how that sort of takes a bit of work. How do you sort of structure your day? Do you sort of block out a bit of time where you would do all that research to say the potential customers, and then you'd block out a bit of time to maybe make all the calls? How do you do it?
Yeah. So what I'll do is, wake up in the morning, do your regular routine. When I get to work, it's normally sometime around like 7:30, 8:30, something like that in the morning. Sit down and figure out, what do I actually want to get done today? And then put some steps in place. So I'll have time on, I think it's Tuesdays and Thursdays I've got at the moment for the next few weeks blocked out for how am I going to find out who to ring, who am I ringing, why am I ringing them? And then, really taking those steps to set up meetings for the week after. And then what I'll do is I'll change those days around too, because I don't really want to get into a routine where I'm just doing the same thing every Tuesday and Thursday. I might do some in the morning, some in the afternoon, change the days around, or I might even go out with some of our local team as well that are also account managers like me and understand, do they have anybody that they're trying to work on, or is there something that I can provide assistance with too? So, the day's constantly changing. The structure is there, but I guess the fun bit with my role is it could go in any direction. Someone could call up and say, yep, I want to see you this afternoon down the Gold Coast or something like that. So,
Right. Yeah, I think that's quite sort of typical of most sales roles. You aim to have the structure, and it does definitely help, planning your days. What am I looking to achieve today? But you never know what kind of curveball might get thrown your way. And it's just about adapting to it and making sure you kind of just do the best you can by the sound of things.
Yeah, and look, I'll be honest, I am not the best at doing structured days. I'll go on the record to say that I could definitely get better. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. I think a lot in our industry, we sort of decline to put ourselves out there and say, hey, I'm not good at this. I want to do better, which is one of the things I'm focusing on, trying to understand, how is everyone else doing what I'm doing? Is there a better way to do it? And put my butt into gear to go and do it.
Yeah. And just going back to what you said earlier about the cold calls, there's never really a cold call in the building industry. Is that also because of the brand name you've got behind you, saying it's Steve from Bunnings? It's never like a who, because everyone knows Bunnings. Is that something that you found?
Yeah, it does help a lot.
Yeah.
Any customer, so we've got our Power Pass division within Bunnings, so that's like our loyalty program. So if you're a builder in
Yeah.
Australia, there would be, and like I can't quote statistics, but there'd be a good chance you've been to a Bunnings before and you might have a Power Pass card. With that in there, you'd fill out your
Yeah.
details, your contact details, and things like that. From there, we can understand if you're a builder. Do you build big homes, small homes? Are you a gardener? Are you an electrician? And things like that. So
Mm.
we can really home into who's purchasing what, and then we can start to break that down and try to figure out who's not purchasing bits and pieces.
Mm. Gotcha. Mate, love that. Really appreciate you going through what you're doing, right now. That was the present. I want to go back in time a little bit now,
Yep.
and actually right back to the start of your, let's say, sales career. I mentioned it at the top of the show. It's coming up 10 years. 10 years back, tell me the story. How did you initially get into the world of sales?
Yeah, and that was back in 2012 when I left school. I didn't finish school, but I left it. 2013, that year after, I had zero direction. I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't in trouble. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. So, like many people in that position, get a part-time job, start to do something. I think I took up a photography degree to try to make something of myself and almost force a result without understanding what it was I wanted to do. So it was actually my mum who got me the job at a glass manufacturer on the north side of Brisbane. I think she had some connections from her past job. I think she rang them up and just asked them, "Hey, have you got any jobs going? My son's done with school. He's studying at the moment a photography course. He really wants to get into like a customer service role." And she told me a couple of hours before the interview, and I said to Mum, "No, I know better. I don't want to go. It's not what I want to do. I don't want to do customer service. I know better than you." And yeah, I look back at that and just think how different my life could have been if I didn't actually follow that.
Wow.
It'd be crazy. So that was customer service. I did that for a couple of years. Obviously, sales within customer service bits and pieces. And then I remember sitting down and watching the sales reps at the company that I was working at. And this is a really shallow answer, but like the reason why I wanted to get into sales and how did I get into it is I wanted a company car. I didn't want to pay for fuel and I wanted to go out and, have a coffee with someone out in the office. Shallowest answer I could give.
Yeah.
But also the honest answer. I just wanted those perks of the job almost.
Yeah, and then you did, right? You progressed as a salesperson with that glass company.
Yeah,
is that
correct.
right?
Yeah, so I think I was a sales rep there. So I pretty much did exactly 5 years in that job. So I think it was around the 2.5 year or 2 year mark doing customer service that I became a sales rep there. That's when everything changed. And I started to realize that you don't just go to work and do a job for the sake of doing a job and leave. There's actually reason behind why we do what we do, especially being a sales rep, bringing money in. But it's not just bringing money in, it's also focusing on the customer. Then you break it down, focusing on the right customer. And then what are you doing with your time to bring that correct customer in and how to service them? Like it just sort of got really big. I don't want to say out of control for me, but I must have been 20 years old or 21 years old. So I was immature. I wouldn't say my life together, but I didn't have a clear direction of what I wanted to do. I remember I got handed the keys. It was a Mazda SUV. Was it a Mazda? Yeah, it was a Mazda SUV. And I just thought, wow, I've made it. I've got the free car. Now what do I do? There wasn't any direction behind it. It was I really had to make something of myself pretty quickly. I was lucky when I left that job and went to the next job after that. I learned so much about how to sell, why we sell, why people want to buy from us, and things like that, personal brands, etc. But yeah, getting into sales was the shallow end of I just want the free things, and why I'm in the career of sales now is just so much more than that.
It sounds like so many salespeople. You kind of you fall into it, right? You just kind of you're often young, and you just kind of everyone has a slightly, you just need a job or whatever, or you like you say, you just wanted a car, or it was just
Mm,
something happens, and you fall into it. It sounds like, could be, correct me if I'm wrong. Once you sort of fall into it, you kind of just fell in love with it, and you've just been riding that sort of
yeah.
riding that roller coaster and the
Even at
journey
the
ever since.
glass place that I was at, the manufacturer, so they would import glass, cut it to size, and then sell it. I used to sit down and I used to read like the installation guides, and I used to read the product makeup of why is glass bronze versus green. That's the amount of iron. Of low iron glass, which makes it white. The more iron you put in glass, it's green. Bits and pieces like that. So I really sort of immersed myself within learning the
Yeah,
product. That was towards the end of when I was at the glass place. Um, but I think definitely not like diagnosed with ADHD, but I've got those tendencies of grabbing something and then just deep diving straight into it, trying to understand as much as I can. And then how do I use that and sort of
right.
go a little bit, hyper at that idea of something to make it work.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Those sort of early years are so important, and that's often when you don't realize it at the time, often, but that's when you do a lot of your
Mm.
it's like your training ground. You make a lot of mistakes and you learn a lot. What would you? How do you reflect from those sort of first few years in sales?
I think my
What are
biggest
your biggest
takeaways were just
takeaways from
making
those periods,
so
from that
many
period? Sorry.
mistakes, but you can't say making the right mistakes, but I think it was making the mistake and then learning from it and learning around why. Um, Obviously, did things correctly, but definitely learned a lot more from, maybe not doing this process or not following up and then understanding why. But also the people around me too. Like what you said, you're very guided by the people that sort of lead around you, or the managers that you have and the people that you look up to and who, inspires you in the position that you're at. I didn't
Yeah.
have anyone that inspired me at the glass industry. So I think I sort of attached myself to whoever was doing maybe like the coolest thing at the time, or,
Yeah.
who was making a lot of money in sales. Hey, how do you do it? There wasn't that sort of emotional buy in.
Mm. I think, yeah, obviously that the role of mentors and is so important for especially early stage salespeople in their career. I always advise people, and anyone really, but find a mentor
Mm.
and learn from them, and shadow them and pester them, and how can I get better? It sounds like, and I guess throughout your career, how would you say the role of mentors has sort of affected you, and
Yeah, so
anyone in
there
particular that
was,
you would maybe give a
and I
shout
guess I
out
don't
to
want
on
to
that
say
front?
changed my life or anything like that, but just the pivotal moment of meeting someone and then watching them become like a leader, like an inspiration. Um, like I can remember it was incredible. I didn't get the opportunity to work with this leader. I was sort of working in the same team alongside with them, and that was once I left the glass industry and went into the next job that I had within the building industry. And Jared Wild is his name. He would hate for me to say his name, but
Yeah.
he, I don't know what it was. And it's funny because I did a university paper on this and I only just submitted it like last week around, um, you know, inspiration and management and then things like what's a leader, what's a manager. He was definitely a leader. And I think it was, you
Okay.
could
Yeah.
be told 1,000 times to do something and you'll probably do it. But as soon as you're inspired to do something, for whatever reason it is, there's loads of reasons why we're inspired. That really struck me to my core. That was back in 2019 from memory. Then the COVID pandemic
Mm.
hit, everything sort of changed then. But that was the first time that I had been like properly inspired by a leader. And it's something that I've like engrossed myself with over the last couple of years, understanding not
Mm.
how do you become a leader, because you can't become a leader. You have to have people bestow that honor upon yourself. You could be a manager and you can manage process, but it's special to be a leader and to lead people. So
Yeah.
just even understanding where I was back in 2019 and what a leader is, it's fascinating to dive down that route of inspiration.
Mm. what did that individual do to inspire you? How he obviously didn't just tell you to do
Yeah,
things by the sound of it.
it's
He actually
hard playing.
got something
Although
else
I
out of
have
you.
written two
How
thousand
did he
words
do
on
it?
it. And thinking about it, I should probably send him a copy of that just to show him what it was. But I think it was just how that leader approached situations and how
Yeah.
that person made it almost personal. Why are we doing something? And then this is how we do it. And then here's the result that we're going to get from it. Um, as well as taking a general, I wouldn't even say general, I would say like an invested interest in a person, wanting them to get better. And that's something that I see with myself in the role that I'm in too. Like I don't directly manage
Yeah.
anybody, but I've got a wide sphere of, leadership and inspiration,
Okay.
and how do I sort of nurture people around me. So yeah, I think it's just that personal relationship that you've got, and then also them wanting to do good and me wanting to do good by them to help them do good as well. It's almost like it's multi-layered, and that's probably why it's so hard to be a leader, or to separate yourself from being a manager and a leader and then inspiring
Mm.
people as well, because anybody can manage processes. Like, it would be easy to be um it wouldn't be easy to be, but you could be a general manager of a certain company and manage all of the processes, because there's a set way to do that. I think as soon as you become a leader and you start to have that emotional response and, care about your team and be selfless almost in effect, and how do I help you get where you want to be? And that's something that I've probably, since starting with Bunnings, actually realized that I'm not just an everyday person. I want to be someone better, and I want to better myself every day. How do I become selfless to help other people? Because watching them succeed's, a lot better than watching me succeed. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that quality of selflessness comes up time and time again whenever I talk about the topic of leadership and what makes a good leader. And it's often something that I think leaders struggle with, or people who are maybe
Mm.
transitioning into a leadership role, because often they come from maybe a sales background. Often, if we're talking sales, leadership, management, and they've maybe just
Yes.
been closing deals themselves, just sort of focusing on their own side of things. It's then suddenly it's not just you, it's your team that is now the priority, and you have to separate that. And the leaders that are able to do that, and then and do it with that sort of authenticity,
Mm.
and that and genuinely like care about the team members, the leaders who genuinely care about, say, that salesperson on their team hitting their target, achieving their goals, whatever it is, um, rather
Yeah.
than just kind of saying they do. It's the ones that genuinely actually care, and a kind of selflessness in that nature. And it sounds
Mm.
like that particular individual and yourself is very much aligned with that. Um, Obviously, the topic of leadership is something you're clearly you're pretty interested in. If you're doing extra studies on it as well, by the sound of things. You mentioned you're not quite there yet, but you are sort of in the role. You are looking to inspire and somewhat lead the team around
Yeah.
you. Is that something that you aspire to
Yeah.
be a
And I think
to
I
be
need
a
to
leader
start
within
looking at
within
my
the
role,
business,
and
or
not
down the
think,
track
but
in future?
I have started to look at my role in terms of, I am a leader. I'm a leader within the area that I work in. How do I then lead people along with me? So that's about being integral, having the right business ethics, making sure you're doing the right thing always at the right time, and all that sort of stuff too. Um, but yeah, it's not an easy thing to do either, to be a leader. Sometimes, you got to make the tough choices. Um, and to also,
No.
I've gone through the stage in the last couple of months of, I don't need to be a manager to be a leader. I was always, in my past, I was gunning to be a manager. Let me manage and let me lead a team, and then I'll show you I can become a leader. It's
Yeah.
got to be, let me show you I can be a leader, and then if the opportunity comes along, great. But if
Right.
it doesn't come along, I'm still a leader, and I've got the wide sphere of influence and things like that. How do I then help
Yeah.
other people that are in other teams and help them to grow?
Yeah. Yeah, it will almost become
Mm.
like a natural byproduct if you do it sort of naturally. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
you don't sort
And I guess
of, as you say, beg for it. If you just do it, and then it will hope, it will come
Oh
down the
no!
track.
Well, I was just going to say one of the
Interesting.
reasons why I wanted to come and do this podcast is I wanted to hold myself accountable, and and for others to listen to, and sort of understand that it's okay to go out there and tell people, I want to be a leader, I want to be better, I want to be the best that I can be, and not be afraid to put your hand up in a crowd of 100 people and say, yes, I want to be that person.
Yeah, 100%, mate. What I wanted to touch upon now is you're clearly an ambitious guy. Talking a lot about what you hope to achieve and things in the future. I also want us to say, give you an opportunity
Yeah.
to kind of reflect a little bit and also pat yourself on the back a bit, because you've come a long way, right? We talked about, you mentioned you finished up school, I didn't have the direction, didn't know what you wanted to do, and you've now worked in this industry for 10 years, and you've worked for some great companies. You're doing really well in your role. If you sort of have the chance to reflect on what you've done to get there, what would you say? And this is maybe goes out to someone who's listening to this and who's maybe not quite sure. Say they wanted to get into sales or whatever. Say they wanted to make themselves something, which you have. What kind of steps have you done, and what maybe mindset or tactical things, character traits have
I
you
think
demonstrated in the last 10
ambition,
years that have got
you just called it
where
out before.
you
That's a
are
big
today?
one.
Would you say?
You need to know roughly where you want to go, but you want to have the drive to be able to get there, even if you're not quite sure what that 10-year goal is. If you've got that ambition of, let me just get to the first year or something like that, that's key. I think as well, for somebody that almost wanted to go and learn from, I guess, what I've done and better themselves. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but I remember being in an interview with my last job, and I've done it with this job as well. I remember it was like a presentation that I did in the interview to the company on what did I see the company's strengths were, what did I see that could be included, and then what would I do if I was to be working for you. And it's almost like going outside of what, and I guess you see in interviewers, here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, etc. To be able to present back to a company and sort of feel confident around that too, and here's my idea of what could be done. That was something that I've done and will continue to do, even if it's just a presentation or something like that. I really just want to give it my all, and once again around that ambition and drive. But yeah, it's.
But I want to get into that a little more. That ambition, that ambition and drive. Where does that come from? Because I think a lot of people who are successful, they naturally, they're ambitious. They've got that drive, but there's a reason, without sounding too much like Simon Sinek. There's a reason why they do things. There's a reason why they get out of bed early and
I think it's looking around at
or whatever.
The
what would you say
people that look up to me and they're expecting better from me. It's almost that external drive that's driving me to become better. I don't know, like if I was to be in a silo just by myself as a single, like I see it all the time. You get those seek advertisements for smaller companies, or maybe like a wine distributor where it would just be yourself and you'd be out there cold calling and doing that sort of job by yourself. I don't think I could do that. I don't think I would have the motivation in that exact scenario to drive myself. It's almost like I've got to be surrounded by a corporate structure, people looking up to me to sort of change my behavior a little bit. And that's something that I'm completely honest about as well. Like I'm definitely not waking up as early as I want to. I'm not doing as much university study as I want to. I'm definitely doing as many cold calls as I want to, that's for sure, because I sort of find that fun and invigorating. But I think, there's always something that I could and would do better. Where did that ambition sort of come from with me? Like I said before, I'm definitely not diagnosed with ADHD, but I can't sit still. If I'm on a phone call, I have to get up and pace around. It's just something I do. And I think it was around that confidence of doing the wrong thing to know, like in my past, doing the wrong thing, to know what the right thing is. And now I'm super confident at work. If I need to execute a task, I know exactly how to do it, who to get involved. I'm not afraid to call someone because I know what could go wrong. Like if I don't include that person.
Mm. It sounds like the team element's quite big for you then. Being part of something bigger than yourself. Salespeople can often be, not often, sometimes they can be what I describe lone wolves. They're out for themselves. It doesn't sound like you fall into that camp. You quite, you're very maybe bought into what Bunnings are doing, the corporate nature of the company, the vision of the company, and you believe in what you're doing and the work you're doing, and being surrounded by that team is quite important to you, because I always think selling,
100%.
especially selling to team
and I think the
sport,
great
the
thing
wins
with
feel a lot
Bunnings is
better when
there's
you
so
do it
many
as a team.
teams within. I'm in the
Does that
Bunnings trade
resonate?
section, but the whole Bunnings warehouse section, there's just in Southeast Queensland, just off the top of my head, maybe 40 something warehouses around. And each warehouse has got their own team structure, their own management structure within there. So many different leaders getting the same result, but leading so many different ways, being inspired by the company's goals, their strategies, their tactics as well. It's like you said, it's that whole team effort, and it's almost like I'm being charged up by the people around me, which is opposite to my mum, because she can only handle me for about 2 hours until she tells me, "Okay, go away. I can't keep talking to you, Steve. You got to go in the other room." She said that to me a few times now. But yeah, definitely that team culture. And like I said before, if I wasn't in a team, I'd be a different person. I think it's just bouncing off everybody and getting out there, knowing people, working on different projects, going outside of your boundaries and what you're comfortable with to change who you are, become better. I'm probably going on 1,000 different tangents, but that's honestly what it is. When you get to the point where you're ready, like I'm almost pivoting to a fact where I could do this, I could do that, I could do that, like I'm comfortable within myself. Now it's for me just to execute. I want to be a leader. How do I lead a team? What sort of team do I want to lead? What sort of result do I want to get for the business, whether it's Bunnings Trade or a different company, and putting that all together. What I really want to do is sit down and write that down on a piece of paper so that I can reflect on it and think to myself, my name is Steve. I do this. I stand for this. I haven't quite got there yet, but that's one of the things that I really want to not summarize myself, but it's almost like a version of summarizing my key aspects and really cementing them with. Yeah, correct. Yeah, I probably couldn't name my core values off the top of my head.
Describe that as, would you say?
I'm reading a book at the moment around habits and how to change habits and things like that. And for the first time, and I don't read. Like, I suck at reading. Slowest reader. Sometimes I've got to, big words, I've really got to like spell it out. I'm still literate, but reading for me, you're sitting down, you're reading a book. I can't find that value. But a friend that I've got, Dean, he got me onto some Jocko Willink books around how to develop yourself and developing your team. And I could read that book. That was amazing. And I followed down those books to sort of sit down and start to write out the different things that I learn within these books to then figure out, do I resonate with that or do I not? And that's been a change that I've been trying to do for the last couple of months now. But yeah, trying to figure out, what do I stand for? What's the ethics or morality behind what I do? And yeah, what do I value?
Yeah. It wasn't what was it called? Something, is it Total Ownership or something like that from Jocko Willink?
He's got a few. I can think of the dichotomy of
that's the only one I've read.
Dichotomy of leadership or something like that. But
was it? I can't remember.
Yeah, and then I think there's also like a leadership and tactics or something like that. But
leadership. Yeah, that's
he's got some amazing books, and I would definitely recommend for anybody that's not reading, read something like that, some sort of self-development book to help you to understand yourself and then understand the direction that you could find yourself in.
Yeah.
So I'm
it sounds like you're doing
quite
a bit to develop yourself, outside of work.
So
reading. You're also studying, is that correct? You're studying So
yeah, it
how
is
are
a lot,
you
and
how are you sort of managing, doing
I'm
a
getting the
full-time
grades,
sales
but I'm
job and
not doing as
also
well as I should.
studying? That sounds like a lot.
Like I said earlier, I'll put my hand up and say that I can do better. I'm, watching lectures late at night, missing a
Okay.
lecture or two here or there, still understanding the core topics of it. But then when you get to the tests, exams, and things like that, yeah, I struggle. But I do have the opportunity to change and put some more work into university. It's definitely nothing that my workplace or other commitments are doing. I personally choose to do more work and not do my university
Mm.
studies because I get more value out of what I'm doing at work. I originally started to do my uni studies to future proof myself. That's changed over the last couple of
Yeah.
months. So I started that in 2019 university, and it was, I think there were ads maybe the year
Mm.
before that. Future proof yourself. If you've got a degree, you'll get a job easier and things like that. So I started that not fully understanding why or not having a real proper reason why I wanted
Yeah.
to do it. In the last couple of months, the courses that I've been doing around change management, ethics, I'm doing some finance courses at the moment too. I'm taking a lot more out of them, but I still really value the learning that I'm getting at work over university. And that's a whole nother topic that I'm sure experts could talk about for hours in terms of like what people get out of university and extracurricular study. Even the books that I'm reading at the moment, that's extracurricular, and I'm getting a lot out of those too.
Yeah. Just on that, just my 2 cents. I mean, I went to university, I studied business, but I always found, I studied for a few years, 3, 4 years, but I learned a hell of a lot more
Yeah,
about business by actually working in business. I probably learned more in the first 6 months, compared to the 3, 4 years. But that's not to discredit university and extra study. I think it's really sort of definitely commendable what you're doing, trying, especially
grinding.
doing them, doing a high pressure sales role and also doing that full time, mate. So I think you just got to keep it up, and don't be too hard on yourself if you can't, if you can't.
Yeah,
You
which
can't manage
yeah,
it
it
all. If
is
you can't
definitely
always hit the
having
grades,
a commitment and then committing to
I
it.
think you're
So
just giving it your
I
best
think I've
shot
got
by
two
the sound of
courses
things.
I'm doing at the moment. So that's like part time uni, I think they call it. I think full time is 4 courses. So I do have another 2 courses starting next week through a different university. Like it's
Mm.
through Open Uni online. So I've got another 2 starting next week, and the 2 that I'm currently doing now finish in October. So for the next 3 weeks, I'll be doing full time uni and
Mm.
work as well as reading. I'm doing some marathon training outside of that. Once again, those ADHD tendencies start to come in, and how does one person do all that? Yeah, it is tough, but I really want to do it all, so I'm getting it done. It's fun, but it's tough. I did my first half marathon in
How's the
March,
marathon training
then I
going?
did another one in June, and then I stopped for maybe 2 months, and then it got to the end of last
Mm.
month, and I started to do it again, and I could not run. I think I did maybe 2 kilometers and started getting puffed, and I went, "What's going on?" So I actually started this morning, ironically, in a 12-week marathon training plan because I've got a 25K run coming up 3rd of December
Oh
on the
yeah,
Gold Coast from
nice.
memory. So yeah, I've got the plan, I've got the training methodology behind me. I know where I want to go. Just got to execute it now.
Mm.
Mm.
Absolutely, yeah. Mate, I've got a couple more final questions for you. First one, going back in time, what advice would you give yourself? Advice would you give that person that you described it
Yeah,
as a high
geez,
school
I would
dropout?
probably
What advice would you give that
speak to a
person
hell of a lot more
10 years
people
back
than what
if
I
you
have
could
in the
go back in
past
time?
around what do you do? What do you like doing? What were you doing 20 years ago? And things like that. If I knew 10 years ago that I was going to be in sales, I would be so much better, so much more in touch with where I want to be. Don't get me wrong,
Mm.
I've had fun the last 10 years, but having that vision and drive, which I've got my little sister, she's only 17 at the moment, so she's finishing school this year. she knows where she wants to be. She wants to look into sports physiology, but I don't think she's fully committed to the idea. So I feel like almost saying to her, if you're not fully committed, go experience life for a good year or two, and then come back and understand, is it something, or is it something that you think you want to do? Go have a chat to a few people and figure out, is there something a little bit more niche?
Yeah.
And with that too, I recently helped another guy that I was working with. He went for an interview with a company that I know. I helped him get well, I didn't help him get the interview, but I helped him through his interview process and a couple of little tips and tricks and things like that, which I know for a fact that you're all over. One thing that I said before about doing like a presentation in the interview and really understanding it's not just going to be the questions of what are your biggest strengths, what are your challenges or weaknesses, if people still use that. What's the biggest achievement that you've had? Tell me a little bit about yourself. It's really breaking out of that mold and figuring out what company do I want to go work for? How do I get that interview? And then absolutely acing that interview. And even talking to recruiters as well and trying to understand what's the best interview that you've seen. Which actually, this is probably a good question, Joe. What's the best interview that you've ever seen? No, I reckon someone that you've interviewed, because you're speaking to people all day, every day.
Or a candidate that
surely you've seen that one where you've just sat back and gone, "Wow, that's amazing."
I think, the ones that stand out to me are when they also interview me. So it's not a one-way me grilling them or me just asking the questions they answer, me answering the question they answer. Kind of like what you just did then.
Yes.
Put it back on me. So it's almost like a bit of a, and this is because we're talking about salespeople here that I typically deal with. So I find, this is almost a different topic, but, the best sort of sales professionals, they often challenge the norm. So I often find the best interviewers, they will have come prepared and they'll maybe have done a bit of research on me or whatever, the role I'm looking to recruit them for or whatever. And they'll be asking,
which it's going to be, what are they saying? A dialogue, not a monologue.
So it's a two-way.
Like so it's got to be that interaction rather than one way.
Stood out to me, I'd say.
If I knew that back when I was 16, that I would have probably gone and worked for Google or something like that.
Yeah, and just to who knows, mate? Who knows? I guess what you were kind of going with that when I was saying, the advice to someone 10 years younger, I think you were just going on about, I guess, being naturally curious, from what I understand, just asking a lot of people, speaking to them, asking what, how their careers developed. And I think that's really great advice. Being just naturally curious, being curious about the world around you is something I always advise.
Yes.
I would advise myself to be more when I was younger, which is really great advice, mate. Got one final closing question for you. And this kind of wraps things up. We've talked about work, we've talked about your professional life, what you've done, what you're looking to do. We've touched upon, your drivers outside of work and all those kind of things.
What's a success mean
to me? The idea of success.
Well, it's a question that I used to get asked
Kerr, what
with
does success
my old manager, Greg. He used to ask me, what am I famous for? And I'm not, I guess, ashamed to say it, but I'm definitely not famous for anything. I don't have that one thing yet that I can pin myself on. Definitely done a lot of successful things. Nothing sort of big or momentous that I can put myself on. But I think for me, success isn't like an end goal, right? If you've completed something, then it's almost like, now what? Now what do we do? I think for me, success or achieving success is getting up every day, going to work, making that phone call. There's probably phone calls that you've got too, Joe, where you just think, I really don't want to make this phone call. And you're almost actively telling yourself you don't want to. And then for some reason, you just hit the button and start dialing it. And you're almost on the run figuring out what you're going to do. And within those 3 seconds or 5 seconds of them picking up, you've figured it out. And you've, whatever it is, if you've lost the business, you've won the business, you've done something, you've learned something, that's a success. And it's doing that all day, every day. And it really does suck when you see people that have been doing this for longer than me. You see them start to lose that drive or that reason to want to do it. And you can see their ethics sort of slipping. And it's not that you feel sad for them, but you just think, I wonder what happened or what made you stop losing the vision, or, did success change? A lot of people, obviously, my goal at the moment is to be a leader. There's probably leaders all over the world that their vision is to be on a beach somewhere, or to be retired, or working for that little winery company, going out selling wine to a local BWS or something like that. But yeah, success for me is continue doing what I'm doing and being good at it.
It sounds like enjoying, and I always think about this, is you're enjoying the pursuit of something. Because when you said you hit something, cool, now what? Next thing. Like the real enjoyment comes from the pursuit of the goal rather than the actual goal. It's something I'm always thinking about, and it's something that's actually only penny on a drop for me a few years back.
Yeah, and like
if you can enjoy the actual doing and the process, then that's
you're right. No, it's all good.
That's the real success. Steve Kerr, mate, thank you very much for joining me.
No, sorry, I was just going to say around developing a development, and like what you were just talking about.
I was about to wrap things up, mate. But if you had something else to add,
tactics to not be hit, $1 billion in sales, but it's more around this continuous of how do I continue to grow X amount or something like that, rather than have that definitive. So yeah, exactly with what you're saying. Enjoy the process rather than the end result.
Mate, love it. Thank you very much for joining me, mate. I really appreciate the time you spent there. And I think, to sort of conclude, anyone who, the theme of this episode is someone who's, really set clear goals, gone after it, and made it happen. And there's plenty of actionable tips and tactics that Steve shared on this show of how to get there. And
thanks, Joe. Appreciate you doing this.
So I'm going to go back and listen to this and burn up a few notes for sure. Really appreciate your time, mate. Steve Kerr, thank you very much for joining me.